Hey, it's Janelle Waz, and welcome back to another episode of Treknalysis. And we're talking about that episode. Tuvix, the infamous Voyager episode that sparked plenty of online debates, Twitter threads, and memes. This episode has inspired a lot of strong feelings within the Star Trek fanbase. And then there's me, who's been on the fence the entire time. Maybe it's because I'm not the biggest Voyager fan, though I still like it. But I never developed an opinion about the episode's outcome, seeing it more as a return to the status quo at the end. So obviously, that means revisiting the episode is in order. I sat down and rewatched the Season 2 episode Tuvix recently, ultimately to answer the questions, did Captain Janeway kill Tuvix, and did she make the right call at the end of the episode? Get your replicator rations ready, we're taking a trip to the Delta Quadrant to solve this conundrum.
How about Tuvix?
Tuvix it is.
It's another day in the Delta Quadrant, and Tuvok and Neelix are sent down to a planet to look for a nutritional supplement, which means a pretty good day for Neelix, and one of those days for Tuvok.
Oh, it's an exhilarating day, isn't it?
I do not experience exhilaration.
And you know what they end up doing? Picking flowers! Neelix tries to bond with Tuvok over nature and flowers, and Tuvok just wants to clock in, do his job, and go home.
You're acting more Tuvokian than usual this morning.
I am who I am, Mr. Neelix.
Neelix then decides to liven this flower trip up by singing, and in the absence of 99 bottles of beer on the wall, he opts for a Vulcan funeral dirge.
Oh, starless night of boundless black.
That lovely tune is a traditional funeral dirge.
So my question is, what did Tuvok do to deserve this?
I don't see why you're not having fun.
Are Neelix and Tuvok back from the surface?
Well, Tuvok is. Neelix is still on the planet, but he's not moving. Before Tuvok and Neelix are ready to beam aboard, there's a transporter glitch detected, and Forever Ensign Harry Kim is sent to fix it, which results in a horrible transporter accident.
I'm Lieutenant Tuvok, and I'm Neelix.
So this merged Tuvok-Neelix goes to sickbay and confirms what we already know. This guy here is a fusion of both Tuvok and Neelix, but also a third genetic pattern has been thrown in. Orchids. Well, way to go, Harry! No wonder you're still an ensign.
I didn't notice a little box on my chair.
Delta Quadrant native, fellow Voyager passenger, and doctor's assistant Kes helps them merge Tuvok-Neelix in sickbay. But it's incredibly awkward for her, for you see, she was dating Neelix and being mentored by Tuvok. You can tell she's trying to stay professional throughout this whole thing, but she's having a tough time. Meanwhile, the merged Tuvok-Neelix decides he needs a new name. Nevok is floated out there, but he decides upon Tuvix. And then calls Kes Sweeting, like how Neelix used to, and things go downhill from there.
I'm so glad you're here to help me through this, sweetie.
Kes is adequately creeped out. The EMH, or Emergency Medical Hologram, performs an exam and finds that Tuvix is doing pretty well from a medical standpoint.
I've been poked and prodded in organs that I didn't even know I had.
Well, I hope Kes wasn't the one doing that. This does bring up an interesting point. The EMH knows how to care for Tuvok. After all, Tuvok is a Vulcan, and the doc would have access to adequate medical data to keep him healthy. Neelix may be a Talaxian, a native to the Delta Quadrant, but the doc seems to have kept him healthy successfully and could always ask Neelix if XYZ is normal with Talaxians. However, we don't know what medical complications could arise in Tuvix, the fusion of both species. The prospect of keeping Tuvix healthy isn't as clear-cut as individually keeping Tuvok or even Neelix healthy. But in the meantime, Tuvix is doing okay and is rather antsy and needs something to do on the ship. Janeway says they're in need of a cook since Neelix is, well, unavailable. But Tuvix wants Tuvok's old job because Janeway needs an experienced tactical officer, and after all, Tuvix has all of Tuvok's knowledge. The EMH is all, OMG, please give him something to do. And while Janeway isn't ready to assign him to the bridge just yet, she invites Tuvix to join the senior staff briefing.
Captain, has anyone ever told you that you are as fair-minded as you are lovely?
Flattery will get you nowhere.
Ooh, close but no cigar. I have to hand it to Tuvix actor Tom Wright here. He does a good job combining aspects of both Tuvok and Neelix into the character of Tuvix, and you can tell when Tuvix is the more dominant personality and when Neelix is.
He also possesses Tuvok's irritating sense of intellectual superiority, and Neelix's annoying ebullience.
At the staff meeting, Harry insists that the transporter accident wasn't his fault.
I didn't notice a little box on my chair.
And everyone is at a loss and can't figure out why Tuvok and Neelix were fused together.
There's never been an accident like this recorded in the entire history of transporter technology.
Well, that's not entirely true, Kate. Remember the original series episode, The Enemy Within? Granted, that was Captain Kirk separated into two, but they were merged back together in the end. Even if merging good Kirk and bad Kirk was the intended consequence, it's still a similar enough occurrence to deserve a mention here. So they're trying to figure out what happened, and Tuvix decides to add to the conversation.
Sex.
I beg your pardon.
Weirdly enough, he's onto something. Due to Tuvok's botanical research, Tuvix suggests that the orchids Tuvok and Neelix collected reproduce by merging with another species, resulting in...
A hybrid.
Like you.
Exactly.
So, I guess this puts Harry in the clear. This time. Meeting adjourned, and Kes runs into Tuvix in the hallway, and he tries to set up a date. Guy, you've already creeped her out at least twice since you beamed aboard.
Sweetie.
You're just making things worse!
Why break with tradition just because of a little transporter accident?
But Kes agrees anyways, and they go to the mess hall where Tuvix takes over the kitchen and puts it in order. Heck, Kes is even helping him clean up, and she's at ease. And we're back to creeping out Kes again.
I have to go.
The EMH continues to research Tuvix's condition with the hope of reversing it. However, with multiple setbacks, it's looking like Tuvix's condition might be permanent with no way to safely separate Tuvok and Neelix.
I feel as though I've lost 2 patients. I'm sorry.
The doc says he will continue to search for a solution, but it could take months or years if it even comes at all. Now, let's consider. This news, though devastating, does open the door to Tuvix adjusting to this new way of life. And so far, life hasn't been so bad for him. In fact, the combination of Tuvok and Neelix does give him a new way to approach problems. In fact, it was Tuvok's logic and Neelix's hunch that might be responsible for fixing a glitch in the computer.
How'd you fix it so fast? I had a hunch.
A hunch?
That's correct.
To Tuvix, yes, Tuvok and Neelix are lost, but he gets to live another day to creep out Kes. And speaking of creeping out Kes, Tuvix pays Kes a visit late in the evening and finds her mourning the loss of both Neelix and Tuvok. Again, Neelix was her boyfriend and Tuvok was her mentor. If she lost one, she would have gone to the other for comfort and or guidance, but now she's without both. Tuvix admits he feels a little out of place on Voyager, and Kes, trying to be a friend, suggests that maybe they could help each other through this difficult time. Credit to Kes, because she's been kinda creeped out by Tuvix ever since this whole thing started, but she's trying to be a friend.
I love you, Kes.
And we're back to creeping her out again. Kes then brings up some really good points. 1, she doesn't really know Tuvix, and 2, what about Tuvok's wife? Tuvix doesn't really answer her question.
What about Tuvok's wife, for one thing?
I could never forget T'Pel, and I would never ask you to forget Neelix.
He also takes the opportunity to remind her that it could take years to defuse Tuvok and Neelix, which for her could be a lifetime. That's right, you only live 9 years and I'm what you've got, baby!
Should consider that it is by no means certain that another offer of marriage may ever be made to you.
Please go.
Well, being sufficiently creeped out once again, Kes stops by Janeway's quarters because, in the absence of Tuvok, Janeway is the next best option.
Would you like some hot tea?
Oh, heck yes. Janeway and Kes have a pretty good conversation about losing loved ones, Kes with Neelix and Janeway with her fiancé Mark back in the Alpha Quadrant. There are days when Janeway feels hope that they'll make it back and she'll be reunited with Mark, but there are also days where things look pretty bleak. She tells Kes that she would never tell anyone to give up hope and advises her to give herself some time.
I'll go now and let you sleep. My door is always open to you, Kes.
You know, Janeway's a pretty good captain.
2 weeks later.
It's 2 weeks later, and other than his failed interactions with Kes, Tuvix has taken to life with the Voyager crew. He's settling in, the crew is adjusting, heck, he's even made tactical officer on the bridge. However, the Doc has a hunch about defusing Tuvix, and Harry is more than a little willing to help. Well, I mean, between Tuvix's life and proving he didn't cause the transporter mishap in the first place, maybe that promotion is just around the corner after all!
I didn't notice a little box on my chair.
Kes and Tuvix sit down to another conversation, a terrible idea, really, and Kes says that she hopes they can one day be friends, but it'll take some time.
I'm not going anywhere.
Doctor to Lieutenant Tuvix.
Oof, on the ship only 2 weeks and already a lieutenant? That's gotta rub Harry the wrong way.
I didn't notice a little box on my chair.
Well, the Doc and Harry have figured out how to successfully defuse Tuvix and get Tuvok and Neelix back. Kes is absolutely thrilled. She gets her boyfriend and her mentor back. Tuvix, on the other hand...
I don't want to die.
And we come to the moral quandary of the episode. Separating Tuvix into Tuvok and Neelix was always on the table. In fact, for most of the 2 weeks Tuvix has been around, even he was okay with it. Heck, the EMH spent the last 2 weeks figuring out how to separate Tuvix. But now that the solution has been found, Tuvix no longer wants to go forward with it. He's adjusted to life on the ship, arguably starting a new life. I can see both sides of the issue, but I still have a few questions. 1. Would separating Tuvix really kill him? We don't consider Captain Kirk to have been killed when he was split into two and merged again. Why should we consider Tuvix as being killed if he goes through a similar procedure? And 2. Why is Tuvix bringing this up now? Let's face it, it wasn't a secret that this is what they were trying to figure out on the ship for the past 2 weeks. And 3. Is this really Neelix just wanting to spend some time with Tuvok while he's trapped in the same body?
Oh, starless night of boundless black.
Janeway calls Tuvix to her ready room to discuss what they should do, and Tuvix immediately fights her on it.
And I thought it was important to get your perspective before making a decision.
Are you suggesting that this is your decision to make?
Janeway points out that there are 2 other lives to consider, Tuvok and Neelix. After all, they have people who want them back. Well, Tuvok does. I'm kidding, guys. Tuvix argues that restoring their lives means sacrificing his, equating it to an execution.
Don't you think that I care about Tuvok and Neelix? Of course I do. In a way, I think of them as my parents.
Ooh, that is a horrifying thought. Tuvix goes to Kes and begs her to plead his case to Janeway. Only, Tuvix probably creeped Kes out one time too many.
Kes, you may be my only hope.
You're my only hope.
But I want Neelix back.
Tuvix resumes his post, and Janeway emerges from her ready room. I know what I have to do. Janeway wants to handle this privately and probably with a little dignity, but Tuvix just has to create a spectacle.
Doesn't anyone see that this is wrong?
And then he tries to go for broke and is caught by security. Janeway and security escort Tuvix to sickbay, and the EMH doesn't want to participate in this, seeing it as doing harm to Tuvix by taking his life. Question though, what scientific basis are you basing this on, Doc? No, seriously, genuine question. Like I said, the enemy within should provide some precedent. But Janeway, with her medical degree, I'm sure, does the procedure herself, which amounts to what they did with Good Kirk and Bad Kirk in the original series, sending Tuvix through the transporter. With one final guilty look at Janeway, Tuvix is sent through and we've got Tuvok and Neelix back. The procedure is a success. Kes gets her mentor and mildly annoying boyfriend back and loses one creeper. Janeway walks away with guilt on her face, processing what just happened as the episode comes to a close. And that was Tuvix. Thanks for tuning in!
You're going nowhere!
Oh, fine. I rewatched the episode, and you know what? I still find myself conflicted. I can see both sides of the argument. On the one hand, ever since Tuvok and Neelix were fused, the one thing that the EMH was working towards was how to get Tuvok and Neelix back. It wasn't a secret, everyone knew about it, and everyone was okay with it. Of course we want Tuvok and Neelix back. Well, of course we want Tuvok back. Guys, I'm kidding. But as those 2 weeks progressed and it seemed like there was no way to get Tuvok or Neelix back, Tuvix adjusted and began his life on Voyager and didn't want to give that up. It's definitely a tough call. But what are my thoughts? Did Janeway kill Tuvix? I'm leaning towards no. Using the enemy within as precedent, Captain Kirk was not considered dead when he was split into good Kirk and bad Kirk, and good and bad Kirks were not considered killed when they were fused back together as regular Kirk. Therefore, splitting Tuvix to restore Tuvok and Neelix shouldn't be considered killing him. Now, I still say that I'm leaning that way because I still mostly don't know. There are a lot of unknowns with this. Perhaps if Tuvok and Neelix were asked if they retained Tuvix's memories and whether they felt like they died, heck, in one episode Neelix was dead and revived, so he has a reference point. Maybe there would have been a more concrete answer even if later in the show. But now we reach another question. Did Janeway make the right call? And I think ultimately, yes, and it was a necessary call. And not just for returning the show to the status quo. Going back to the enemy within, if good Kirk and bad Kirk weren't fused back together, both of them would have died, or at the very least could no longer function. Besides the fact that there would be uncharted territory in medically caring for a fused Vulcan Talaxian, as opposed to getting a person who is born half Vulcan, half Talaxian, we don't know if similar problems could have arisen in Tuvix, and if Tuvix were to suddenly die, then the chances of getting Tuvok and Neelix back would have plummeted to 0. Perhaps it comes down to the needs of the many outweighing the needs of the few or the one, but in any case, I think Janeway made the right call. But this is such a gray area for me, and my opinion could end up changing somewhere down the line.
So at what point did he become an individual? And not a transporter accident.
So what do you think? What are your thoughts on Tuvix? Do you think Janeway made the right decision, or did she have a lapse in judgment that caused the death of Tuvix? Should Tuvok and Neelix have been sacrificed so Tuvix could live, or should Tuvix have taken one for the team without complaint? And what other controversial Star Trek dilemmas would you like to see covered? Please, leave comments below and discuss. As always, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Treknalysis. If you like what you see, why not give my video a like and subscribe to my channel? Tell your friends! Until next time...
Oh, starless night of boundless black.